What is an ATO? Great question. An ATO, which is actually an abbreviation or short for auto top off, is any device that will automatically add fresh water back to the aquarium to replace water that is lost through evaporation. And I'll walk you through the most popular type of ATO in just a little bit, but first, let's look at why you would even want one. Anyone who has had an aquarium will have experienced the drop in water level within that aquarium or the sump that happens over the course of a few days, and then had to grab a jug or a bucket of fresh water to fill it back up to the same level that it was at before. An ATO basically takes that job off of your plate by making sure that the water level in the aquarium stays consistent all the time, which does have a few important benefits, especially for our saltwater aquariums. So, why is it important to prevent evaporation from getting out of hand? Because it is actually important. First off, salts don't evaporate, so if the water volume decreases, the salinity increases, which can be problematic for sensitive fish and the majority of invertebrates and corals. Nutrients like nitrate and phosphate, along with the concentrations of other water parameters, will also become more concentrated, which can definitely become problematic for the health of the aquarium. Another issue that an ATO solves is preventing equipment from becoming exposed to air and running dry. A good example is aquarium pumps, like a return pump or a circulation pump, which could become damaged if they begin pulling in air, as well as aquarium heaters, which can overheat and break if they're plugged in while being out of the water. For those important reasons, among others, making sure that the aquarium is consistently topped up, especially in a reef aquarium, is super important. And topping off by hand is certainly doable, but it's just impractical for the majority of us. And hence, the auto top off, also known as an ATO, was born. There are two basic types of ATO to choose from: gravity-fed and pump-driven. Gravity-fed ATO systems require the reservoir of fresh water to sit above the waterline of the aquarium or the sump, and typically use a mechanical float valve to stop and start the flow of fresh water. As the water evaporates from the aquarium or sump, the float valve lowers and opens up to allow water to flow, and as the water level rises back up, the float valve closes to shut off that flow of water. Gravity-fed ATO systems are awesome because they don't require power or a pump, but the float valves do need to be maintained and replaced periodically to make sure that they're always working perfectly and don't leak, which could cause all the remaining water in the reservoir to flood the aquarium or sump. One drawback to gravity-fed ATOs is that unless your aquarium comes with one, like a lot of the Red Sea aquariums do, you'd most likely need to make a DIY version for your aquarium by getting a float valve, a suitable container, some tubing, and fittings. It's not exactly hard to do, but if you just want to buy an ATO and set it up, then a pump-driven ATO is likely what you're after. A pump-driven ATO uses a small pump to push fresh water from the reservoir to the aquarium or sump, which means you can have that reservoir sit below or even at the same level as the aquarium or sump. This allows you to mitigate the risk of the reservoir ever accidentally flooding the system like a gravity-fed ATO can. Most pump-driven ATOs are digital and use a small controller with either optical sensors, float sensors, or even both to detect the water level and immediately add fresh water when the sensor is tripped, which often translates to a smaller amount of water evaporating between top-offs and less fluctuation in water chemistry. Pump-driven ATOs will also typically have some sort of internal programming and extra sensors to act as redundancies to prevent them from ever accidentally flooding the aquarium or the sump, and in some cases they have both, like the Tune's Osmolator 3155 or even the Neptune Systems ATK. Pump-driven ATOs are by far the most popular, and there's a wide range of them to choose from to fit all sorts of budgets and aquarium setups, and they're definitely the type of ATO that I recommend for new and seasoned aquarium hobbyists alike. But before anybody goes out and gets an ATO for their aquarium, you're gonna wanna make sure that you avoid the most common mistakes that people make with their ATO, especially because one of them is seriously devastating. So watch this top 20 video right here. We go through all of the most common mistakes. They're super easy to avoid if you know about them, so enjoy and save yourself a lot of hassle.